Have you ever noticed how the most awake, aware, and peaceful people are often the quietest ones in the room? They're not competing, not chasing, not shouting their opinions to be heard. Instead, they're silently walking away from noise, chaos, and illusions that society calls success. And that's exactly what Alan Watts tried to teach us, that spiritual awakening isn't about becoming more, it's about needing less. When a person becomes spiritually awake, they begin to see the world for what it truly is, a game of endless desires, constant comparisons, and fake happiness built on external validation. Society tells us to run faster, earn more, show off louder. But the awakened soul looks around and whispers, why? Why chase things that never satisfy? Why live by rules created by people who aren't truly living themselves? Alan Watts once said, "The meaning of life is just to be alive." But society has twisted that simplicity into a competition. From childhood, we're told to be someone, to be better, to be successful. Yet no one teaches us how to simply be. And when a person finally wakes up to that truth, they no longer fit in with the collective madness. They stop seeking approval, they stop pretending, and they quietly step away. These people are not running away from life. They're stepping into it, into a deeper, quieter, and more real version of existence. They find peace in solitude, beauty in stillness, and joy in simplicity. They stop watching the news because it feeds fear. They stop engaging in gossip because it drains energy. They stop scrolling endlessly because they finally realize that everything they were searching for outside already lives within them. To the world, it looks like they've withdrawn, but in reality, they've just returned home to their inner selves. Their silence isn't emptiness, it's awareness. Their distance isn't arrogance, it's understanding. They realize that you can't heal in the same environment that made you sick, so they choose peace over pressure, stillness over struggle, and truth over trends. Alan Watts taught that awakening doesn't mean escaping society, it means seeing through it. Once you see the illusion, you can't unsee it. You start recognizing how much energy people waste trying to maintain images, prove worth, and chase acceptance. And so there's the spiritually awake quietly drift away, not out of hate, but out of love. Love for truth, love for freedom, love for being real. In a world that celebrates noise, their silence is a rebellion. In a culture obsessed with more, their simplicity is wisdom. They are not anti-social, they are pro-self. They are not rejecting society, they are rediscovering themselves. So, if you ever feel yourself pulling away from the noise, don't fight it. Maybe your soul is waking up. Maybe you're beginning to hear that gentle whisper Alan Watts spoke of. The one that says, "You are not in the world is in you." That is why spiritually awake people are quietly leaving society. Not because they've given up on it, but because they've finally found something far greater peace. That says true awakening leads to detachment. When a person truly awakens spiritually, something profound begins to shift within them. They start to see the world not as it is presented, but as it truly operates beneath the surface. The endless race for wealth, validation, and recognition begins to lose its charm. What once seemed important suddenly feels meaningless. The very systems that once defined success start to appear hollow and mechanical. This is the beginning of detachment, not the cold withdrawal from life, but a warm realization that peace and happiness were never tied to external things in the first place. That detachment doesn't mean you stop caring, it means you stop clinging. Society teaches us to hold on to people, possessions, and identities because we believe these things give us purpose. But the spiritually awake person begins to see that attachment is the root of suffering. When you depend on things outside yourself for fulfillment, you live in constant fear of losing them. Detachment is freedom from that fear. It's the ability to enjoy life without being controlled by it. Alan Watts often spoke about the illusion of control, the idea that we can somehow manage or manipulate life into perfection. The awakened person realizes this is impossible. Life flows on its own, and the more we try to control it, the more resistance we create. Detachment allows us to move with the flow, not against it. When you let go of the obsession to control outcomes, you begin to experience peace in its purest form. You stop forcing life to make sense and start trusting its natural rhythm. Spiritually awake individuals no longer define themselves through roles or possessions. They understand that identity is fluid, not fixed. The job title, social status, or even personal achievements no longer hold the same weight. These things may still exist, but they no longer define who they are. The detachment is not from responsibility. It's from illusion. They continue to live, love to work, but now with awareness. They engage in life without becoming enslaved by it. This detachment often makes them appear distant or uninterested to others, but inside they are more connected than ever. They have simply outgrown the need to constantly prove their worth. When a person reaches that state, they begin to understand that nothing in this world is truly permanent. People change, seasons pass, and everything eventually fades. Instead of fearing this impermanence, they embrace it. They see beauty in the fleeting nature of life because it reminds them that every moment is sacred. The process of awakening also brings a deep sense of clarity. The noise of society, its opinions, expectations, and pressures no longer has the same influence. Spiritually aware people detach, not because they dislike the world, but because they can now see how much of it is built on illusion. They see how people wear masks, chasing dreams that were never truly theirs. They recognize the emptiness behind constant consumption, the exhaustion behind success, and the loneliness behind fame. So they quietly choose simplicity. They find joy in small moments, watching the sunset, breathing deeply, or listening to silence. True detachment is not a rejection of life. It's a deeper participation in it. When you detach, you begin to see life as a play. You play your role, but you no longer mistake yourself for the role. This understanding creates immense peace. You no longer overreact to failures or cling desperately to victories. You begin to understand that both are just experiences, temporary and fleeting. This calmness is the essence of spiritual maturity. Alan Watts beautifully explained that awakening is like waking up from a dream you didn't know you were in. Once you wake up, you can no longer take the dream so seriously. You still participate in it, but now with awareness, you see the patterns, the illusions, and the attachments that once trapped you. Detachment is what follows naturally from that awakening. It's not something you force. It's something that unfolds on its own. Those who are truly awake walk gently through life. They don't seek to impress or control others. They move with grace, with acceptance, and with a quiet understanding that everything is temporary. Their peace doesn't come from possessions or praise, but from the realization that nothing external can complete them. They have stopped chasing and started being. That is the real power of detachment, living fully, but lightly, caring deeply, but freely and loving everything without needing to own any of it. Silence is their rebellion. In a world that never stops talking, where everyone is competing to be heard, silence has become the rarest sound. Society celebrates loudness, loud opinions, loud lifestyles, loud success stories, but spiritually awakened people understand something deeper. The loudest voices often come from the most restless minds. Their silence is not emptiness, it's awareness. It's a quiet rebellion against a culture that mistakes noise for intelligence and attention for importance. When they choose silence, they are not escaping the world, they are freeing themselves from its chaos. For most people, silence feels uncomfortable. It exposes the noise inside, the overthinking, the insecurity, the endless craving for validation. That's why people keep talking, posting, and proving. They're trying to fill a void that only awareness can heal. But spiritually awake individuals have faced that silence within themselves. They have sat with their own thoughts, their own pain, and their own truth. And through that inner confrontation, they found peace. Their silence becomes a sacred space where they no longer need to defend who they are or explain what they feel. Alan Watts once said, "Muddy water is best cleared by leaving it alone." That's exactly what these people understand. The more you stir the mind with endless chatter and distraction, the more confused it becomes. Silence allows everything to settle. It allows clarity to rise naturally without effort. In this stillness, they discover that wisdom doesn't come from talking. It comes from observing. They realize that the answers they were seeking outside were already within them, just buried under noise. In modern society, people are taught to shout their truth, to fight for visibility, to constantly express. But when everyone is talking, who's truly listening? The awakened soul realizes that silence itself is a form of power. It disarms arrogance, confuses negativity, and restores inner balance. They no longer feel the need to argue, debate, or prove their point. They understand that truth doesn't require defense. It reveals itself in presence. By staying silent, they refuse to participate in the endless drama of the world. Their silence becomes their strength. This silence is not about isolation. It's about connection on a higher level. When you are silent, you begin to hear life itself. The sound of the wind, the rhythm of your breath, the quiet pulse of existence that words can never describe. You begin to sense energy rather than noise, feelings rather than opinions. Spiritually awake people communicate not through arguments, but through presence. Their calm energy speaks louder than words ever could. Silence also becomes their rebellion against manipulation. The modern world runs on distraction. Every second, someone is trying to grab your attention through media, politics, or advertising. But those who are awake have withdrawn from that race. They have realized that attention is the currency of the modern age, and whoever controls your attention controls your mind. By staying silent, they reclaim that power. They no longer react to every headline or engage in every argument. Instead, they conserve their energy for things that truly matter: peace, awareness, and growth. In their silence, there is understanding. They see how most conflicts are born from misunderstanding and ego. They see how noise feeds division and fear. By staying quiet, they break that cycle. They choose not to add more chaos to an already noisy world. They choose inner harmony over outer drama. Their silence is not passive, it's active awareness. It's a conscious decision to rise above the madness of constant stimulation and find peace in simplicity. To the unawakened, their silence might look like indifference, but in truth, it's compassion. They've realized that arguing doesn't heal, shouting doesn't change hearts, and proving oneself never brings peace. So instead of fighting with the world, they focus on transforming themselves. Their silence becomes a mirror, reflecting back the emptiness of noise and the depth of stillness. In the wisdom of Alan Watts, silence is not the absence of sound, it's the space in which everything meaningful exists. The awakened soul understands that every word has power and every moment of quiet carries truth. They don't waste words because they know that silence often says more. Their calmness in the midst of chaos unsettles those who live in noise. It's a rebellion, not through resistance, but through transcendence. They have simply stepped out of the game. Their silence is a statement that peace is louder than chaos, presence is deeper than attention, and stillness is the ultimate form of freedom. They walk quietly, speak softly, and live deeply, not to escape the world, but to remind it that true power doesn't shout, it whispers.